Welcome to the Progress Zone podcast, where we help you create real momentum in your mindset, business, health, and life. I'm your host, Jody Donaldson, and every week we'll explore the small, intentional steps that lead to big, lasting growth. This isn't about hype, it's about habits. So let's get started. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Progress Zone. Today's episode is going to be pretty special. I want to talk about lessons my father taught me about life and work and legacy. You know, some lessons don't really hit you until the person who taught them is no longer here. And then you start to realize those lessons weren't just things they said. They were things they lived. After recently losing my father, I've spent a lot of time thinking about that. Not just about who he was, but about what he gave to me, gave to my siblings, gave to my family. Because when someone passes, what stays with you is how they lived, the way they showed up, the values they carried, the things you didn't even realize you were learning at the time. One of the biggest things my dad gave me was work ethic. He was a police officer, and he didn't talk about discipline. He just lived it. He showed up. He did his job. He took care of his family every single day. No complaints, no recognition, just consistency. And growing up, you don't think about that. You just think, well, that's normal. But now I look back and I realize that's where my standard came from. That's where the expectation of showing up no matter what was built. Another thing my dad taught me was he had a quiet strength. He wasn't loud. He wasn't trying to be the center of attention. But when he was there, you sure felt it. There was integrity in how he carried himself, in how he treated people, and in how he showed up. And I think that's something that gets overlooked today because everybody wants to be seen, but not everybody is focused on being solid. My dad didn't talk about values because he lived them. One of the things that stands out the most is how present he was. He coached all of my sports teams growing up. And when I got older into high school and to college, he was still there on the sidelines, watching me, supporting me. And at the time, you don't think much about it. You just assume that's what dads do. But now I realize that was a choice he made because he had a demanding job with long hours and tons of responsibility, but he still made the time. And that stuck with me because being present isn't about having time. It's about making the time. Something else I didn't fully understand until now is how much he provided for our family. On a policeman's salary. Looking back, we didn't have a whole lot. I didn't have the brand name stuff. We weren't the family with extra money, but we always had a home and we always had food on the table. And more than that, we had an environment people wanted to be in. I had friends who had more money than we did, and they would still come to our house, not for things, but for how it felt to be there. And that's something I didn't fully understand at the time, but I do now. Because that doesn't happen by accident. That's intentional. That's leadership. That's sacrifice. That's putting your family ahead of yourself over and over again. If I had to sum it all up, the biggest lesson he gave me is simple. Family comes first. Not when it's convenient, not when there's extra time, but always. And that's really what this made me think about, his legacy. Because legacy isn't what you leave behind when you're gone. It's what you pass on while you're here. It's the way you live, the standards you set, the example you give. Because whether you realize it or not, people are watching you the same way I was watching him growing up. So here's the question I'll leave you with. What are the lessons you've been given from the people who have shaped you? And are you actually living them? Thanks for being here. I really appreciate the time today. This episode meant a lot to me. And if this episode connected with you, please reach out to someone who's impacted your life. Tell them, please don't wait, because those conversations matter more than we think. And remember, progress isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, taking action, and getting just a little bit better every single day. I'll see you next time inside the Progress Zone. Thanks for joining me in the Progress Zone. If today's episode gave you a spark, share it with a friend, subscribe, or leave a quick review. And remember, progress isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up. I'm Jody Donaldson, and I'll catch you next time inside the Progress Zone.